Welcome to I Love My HBCU ? The podcast where we express our undeniable love for HBCUs, but where we are also not afraid to address a few tough questions. So, sit back, learn a little, love a lot, and rep your HBCU.
So it's another episode and another reason to love your HBCU. Let's talk Fisk University. I have Brayden Hamilton with me. Brayden, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I can't complain. Okay, I'm getting right to it, Brayden. On a scale of 1 through 10, 10 being, oh my gosh, amazing, rate Fisk University and your experience at Fisk University from a scale of 1 to 10.
I would say I'm going to give Fisk University a 9 on a scale of 1 through 10, which is really high. I would say a 9 strictly because Fisk does have a strong family environment, which I really value. And that never changed from the time that I toured as a prospective student to my time now as a current student. So I would say a 9 out of 10. But that one point is just because of casualties. Like, things are going to go wrong. So it's okay. I have to give them a high number.
I like hold something back just so that they work a little harder. I love it. I absolutely love it. So I read your bio and you are a young lady with a lot of hats. So share with the audience, what is Brayden up to at Fisk University? And I know we're about to be on holiday or on holiday already for the spring semester, but whilst at university, what are the many hats that you wear?
Okay, so currently I serve different roles that I did over the time now, but I'll just kind of like give a rundown of who I am and what my position is at Fisk University. So I am a junior political science and music major at Fisk University. I currently serve as Miss Eta Psi for the Eta Psi chapter of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated. I served in the past as Miss Out Loud for an organization on campus that focuses on the inclusion and equitable treatment of LGBTQ students in Tennessee. And then I was a Fisk University student ambassador for a year. And I'm missing something. Oh, I was a senator for my freshman class in 2023. And I think I'm missing like one more thing. Most important thing, I chartered an organization of Black Girls Vote on Fisk University's campus. Shout out to the Good Trouble chapter at Fisk University.
Did you say the Good Trouble chapter?
Yes, it's an nod to our alum, John Lewis.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I absolutely love that. So I know I had said, tell us the rundown of what you do at Fisk, but in addition to all the things that you do at Fisk, you also have ties to Johns Hopkins University in Baltimore, Maryland, and you are working on some very specific research, if I'm not mistaken. So tell us a little bit about that as well.
Yes. Okay. So, like I said, I'm a music student, but before I came to college, I did train classically with the Johns Hopkins Peabody Preparatory for about 6 years. And I've been playing clarinet for almost 11. So I've been playing my instrument for quite a long time. I play clarinet if I didn't say that already, but I've been playing clarinet for quite a long time. And Peabody has done an amazing job of helping me get to where I am now. And it contributed a lot to my leadership skills as well as like my professional development. So I always give a nod to them when I'm mentioning anything about my personal development, professional development. They've done a lot for me. And as far as like my research project, Fisk University held a social crisis triptych, which is a mouthful, but it's basically a competition where students can organize a 3-part series on a project of topic of their choosing. They give you several topics to choose in between, but my group and I decided to choose reproductive rights in terms of Black women, which is a really, really specific topic. And it was something that we think we know about, right? So like we think we know what reproductive rights look like for all women, but during like the research process, I learned so much about like the reproductive justice movement and what that actually looked like for Black women. That I was created for Black women specifically, because if you're looking at like the hierarchy of needs, quote unquote, or like what people need to in order to even get to the point where they can talk about their reproductive rights system, you have to think about more so holistically. What do they encounter in their everyday life to make it harder for them to be able to reproduce or have a self and healthy environment in that space? So that's the research I completed this year with my group, Reproactive, Rooted in Power and Rising in History. So that was a really cool project.
Wow. Rooted in Power, Rising in History. That's what you said?
Yes, ma'am.
So there are two things you said so I'm always writing. I keep saying this because when I look down, I become self-conscious for the record. And I think other people are saying, why is she looking down when this young lady is talking? And so I always remind people, I quite literally am always writing notes
Mhm.
when you're talking, because I don't want to forget how amazing and how insightful some of the things that people say. There are two things that you said that I'm like, wow. And the first thing that was wow for me was what we think we know. I don't even know if you recall saying that. You do?
Yeah.
Okay. Oof, there are not that many in your generation that will be honest about what you don't know.
Yeah.
And so I love the fact that you approached it with the understanding that this is a space that holds so much information and so much research that we must do our due diligence to keep learning about it. So that's why I really loved the way you said what we think we know.
Mhm.
And then I also appreciate, to be extremely honest, I think it's hard not to if you happen to be and I'm going to say black and not just person of color. I'm going to be very specific and say black, because that's the only experience I know.
Mhm.
Um, I'm sure other women can speak for themselves, be you brown, be you other. So I'm
Mhm.
just going to say black. um I appreciate the manner in which yourself and your team couched your research with regards to reproductive rights, which for me it actually bleeds beyond reproductive rights and just goes into health equity when it
Mhm.
comes to Black women. So kudos on sophomores and juniors
Thank you.
deciding that this is something important enough that you should be learning now.
Mhm.
Most of us start getting our hands dirty when you start, becoming more of an adult in the workforce, but you guys are actually dealing with it now. So kudos on you. Kudos on Fisk University for actually having a program that allows this. So I
Yeah.
love it. I love it. Before we delve, because I want desperately to hear your college selection journey,
Mhm.
but before we do that, I want to throw the rapid fire segment at you. Are you ready?
Yes, I'm
I love
ready.
it. She's ready. She's ready. Guys, can we get into this concrete, this exposed concrete? Myself and the producer for I Love My HBCU question mark. When Brayden came on, and I'm diverting for 2.5 seconds. When Brayden came on, we're like, are you outside? Like it just looks like you're. So if you're not watching it, you need to find this on YouTube and find Brayden Hamilton's episode, because the ambiance of her background is amazing. Okay, rapid
Thank
fire segment. Okay, Brayden, describe your HBCU. No, wrong. That's for my alumni. My apologies.
you.
Brayden, describe yourself in 3 words.
Hmm. Okay. I would say the 3 words would be creative, hardworking, and spontaneous.
Creative,
Yeah.
hardworking, and spontaneous. I love
Yeah.
it. You're at your college graduation, and listen, we're recording this in end of May.
Mhm.
You're at your college graduation. Commencement season is alive.
Mhm.
Who do you want as your commencement speaker?
Hmm.
That sigh.
Because I feel like the commencement speaker, I really do enjoy commencement speakers that are like who are world renowned. But like I wouldn't say I have a person specifically, but I really do enjoy like watching the commencement speeches that are from like the alum from that school specifically. I feel like the
Mm.
message is like that much deeper, like because they're coming from the same campus or the same environment, and they're giving you more advice. So I don't have a person specifically, but anybody that graduated from Fisk, like I would love to hear from
I love it. I absolutely, that's the first time I've actually heard that as a response, and that's my favorite response.
them.
You and I have eaten up all the time for the Rapid 67, but I'm still going to ask you a few more rapid fire
Okay.
questions just because. What's your unpopular opinion about HBCUs?
Hmm. My unpopular opinion about HBCUs. I think that HBCU. Okay, this is like a double thing. I think that HBCU financial aid offices and like administrative offices aren't slower than any other administrative office. Like I feel like anybody else who has issues with that financial aid has the same problems. I just think that we blame it on how we know our community to be a little bit slower. But I feel like that's no different than anything else. That's my unpopular opinion.
I I bet you that when this comes out, every financial aid office is going to be sending you a thank you, like what she said, like literally what she said is what they're going to be saying. So kudos. I've never heard anyone say that. So hey, listen, they'll take it. They'll take it. Shout out your favorite professor.
Dr. Jennifer Adebanjo, I love you so much. Yeah, she's a political science professor and she's the head of the political science department. So,
That's
yes.
beautiful. And you softened and smiled so wide when you said it,
Yeah,
which
she's
means
so
you
sweet.
really, I love it. That means she's had a big impact on you.
Yes.
I don't know if you get to speak to your president often, Brayden, but if you don't, what message do you have for your presidents that you haven't already shared with them?
I would say to try to talk to the alum more and engage when we have more homecoming activities. I kind of feel like the president is like completely removed from those
Hmm.
experiences. And I feel like homecoming and alumni weekend and, those class reunions are really pivotal in the HBCU community because that's where like we're getting most of our information, like those traditions, those cultural things that we need to keep in mind as we're moving forward. So I would say like just kind of engulf themselves a little more in those experiences to kind of get to know more about the legacy, the tradition of the university. Because I think as time goes on, we lose a lot of things just because we don't know, you know what I'm saying? Or
Yeah.
like we don't, somebody may not like it and they completely wipe it away from the culture of the university. So I
Yeah.
just engage a little bit more with the alum to see what they can bring back or they can still foster to make sure that the Fisk identity is still alive.
That's a good message. That's a good message. Again, of course, I do not know how every single president relates with alum, but I think that's a message that cannot be overstated for most presidents of universities. That there has got to be a great relationship with your alum. Okay, last question in the rapid 67. That is clearly over 67 seconds at this point. Um, What's the best meal at your HBCU?
Yeah, fried chicken Wednesday.
I
I
was
love fried
hoping.
chicken Wednesday.
I was
I love
hoping. Did
fried
you see the look on my face before I even asked the question? Like,
yeah,
I hope she doesn't say fried chicken Wednesdays. But she did.
it's
She
just
did.
a classic. Like I love it. I look forward to it every week.
She
Yeah.
did. She did. There's got to be something about the fried chicken Wednesdays, but the fact that so many HBCUs claim that as their best meal on campus,
Hmm.
I really do want to know who's sourcing it because not all fried chicken is good fried chicken. Let's be very clear.
No, it's not.
So the fact that most HBCUs have gotten it right, who is sourcing? Who is sourcing? Who is cooking
It's a good
the
question.
fried chicken? Right,
It's a
right.
good question.
It's a
I
good
don't know think
question.
about that. I don't
Like
think about that.
so many of them choose fried chicken Wednesdays. Not a bad thing. Who is sourcing the chicken
Hmm.
and who's cooking it? That all of you are on the same page. Because
Hmm.
again, you and I both know not all fried chicken is good fried chicken. Okay. You are from Baltimore, Maryland. We
Yeah.
are located in Baltimore, Maryland. And when I heard you're at Fisk University, not that you can't travel, because you can, you've got Morgan, you've got Coppin, and
Hmm.
that's if you just stayed within the city.
Right.
But if you were in Maryland, you've also got University of Maryland Eastern Shore, you've
Hmm.
got Bowie State University, you've got Howard down the road, you've got, girl, you are surrounded by HBCUs and surrounded by other universities. How did we get, not that it's a bad thing, I think it's an amazing thing. I just want to know your college selection journey. How did we go all the way from Baltimore, all the way down to
Hmm.
Tennessee?
This is a really good question. I love talking about this because, like you said, like I grew up with so many HBCUs around me. I think like, and even coming to Fisk, like hearing how some people didn't grow up with any HBCUs around them, like I just think that's that's different. I've never had that experience.
Yeah.
So when I first started looking for colleges, I immediately knew I didn't want to stay home. And only just because I wanted to branch out a little bit more. And I think that traveling sometimes can open your eyes to a lot of things. And Baltimore it's a pretty interesting city. I'm from there, so like I knew that the culture of it, I thought that was normal. I started traveling other places and realized a lot of things that we do in Baltimore aren't normal. So, I just had to branch out a little bit more and just kind of see what the world had to offer. And so, a lot of my family members went to HBCU and like family friends. So I've always known about them. I always knew there were so many options. So I never looked at it as like, oh, I just want to go to HBCU to get this specific experience. I know that there were different places I could receive that specific experience. So when I was looking at a school that would match my personality as well as match like what I wanted to do specifically, Fisk was the perfect match just because of their strong background in like social justice and music. Literally, music is what saved Fisk University. So it's really important to me to be in an institution that harbored and fostered like these two things and incorporated it in their like in their campus environment. So when I visited Fisk was the only school I actually like a in-person tour outside of Maryland. So when I visited Fisk, the student ambassador, I was actually late to my tour. I was like 10 minutes late, but she still waited for me and she gave me my tour and I was just so excited. It meant a lot to me because like I was like, okay, like maybe she's giving me a chance. She's taking her time out of her day to really, foster a connection with me because they care about their students coming in. So that's a big thing to me. And just like walking around campus and like people smiling at me, saying hello, just being friendly, like that was really important, especially because like I'm going to spend a lot of my time here. So it just was really important to me to get out of my hometown and state to like experience another version of HBCU culture. And so I think the South is completely different than what I experienced. Technically Maryland is in the South, but not as Southern as Nashville or Tennessee. So that was just really important to get that contrast and experience.
I love it. I absolutely love that it was very intentional for you.
Yeah.
As opposed to one of those, I just stumbled upon it, which is fine too, let's be clear. But I do love how intentional your journey was. You mentioned something that you knew I'm coming back to. You don't know me, but you know what it is. You know exactly. So a lot of things we do in Baltimore aren't normal everywhere else, is what you said.
Yeah.
I'm curious and nosy at the same time. Give me two of them because I'm just curious. Give me two of them.
The first thing is that Baltimore, first everybody talks about our funny accent, but like opposed to our accent, like the way that we talk to people, and from what I noticed is a little more aggressive than what many people would like. So that was different. And I think like, I've always been used to it. And like we would talk to each other just like, like it's like a familiar experience. I feel like Baltimore is really small. So it's one big family. So everything is like kind of informal and casual. But I think I just had to learn how to be a little bit more formal sometimes with people because like everything may not be like, I guess like everything may not be like as familiar. So that was a very different experience than being in Baltimore and versus being in Tennessee. And then the next thing I would say is just like the city culture. I definitely took for granted the amount of like festivals and city activities there are because Baltimore has a lot to do. And I really didn't consider that because I've always been doing it until I came somewhere else and it didn't have that much going on. So I'm like, okay, like, like I like how there could be a block party going on or like every time it's hot outside, it's something going on. You can go outside and find something. You can go downtown, it's something going on. You can go up to the park, everything. It's just that version of community. Like, even though sometimes Baltimore does struggle with that, I do think like the foundation is there. It was different coming to Nashville and not really having that experience because Nashville is not predominantly Black. So, it was a very different experience.
Yeah. Okay. I like that you gave one that people might turn their noses up at, like, well, she said what? And then you gave another one that like, okay, yes, yeah, we like that one. So I like that you gave both. You are, so yes, the clarinet had your heart for a very long time. It seems diplomacy has your soul to a large degree as well, from what I'm hearing. I also know that you've worked on, I believe it's Senator, if she's not a senator, please correct me, Mary Washington's.
Yes.
Is she a senator?
Yes, Maryland Senator.
There we go. Beautiful. I wasn't sure of what her exact elected title is. I want to hear about some of the work you did, and it doesn't have to be specific to her. I know you are big on social justice
Hmm.
and social impact. So I'd like to hear some of the work that you've done there. I also want your opinion. I consider your Generation Next. You are the
Hmm.
ones that we're looking to for all of the things in the future. What do you think your predecessors have gotten right
Hmm.
within that space of social justice and social impact? And when I say what have they gotten wrong, I don't mean it as a criticism.
Hmm.
I mean it knowing fully well that the work is never done.
Right.
And what could the next generation, i.e., the Brayden Hamiltons of the world, do a little bit different to progress things forward? So, first of all, start with what have they done right? What have your predecessors done right in the space of social justice and social impact?
I would say that my predecessors did a really, really good job of acknowledging the problem. I think that
Mm,
each generation of people and like group of people, they uncover something more, you know. So I think that they've done an excellent job of highlighting the problem and making as much noise about it as possible. Like awareness and being educated about the issue is the first step to fixing a
mm,
problem.
mm,
So that's what I would say they got right. As to what they got wrong, and not like a negative, like you said, I would just say I think that um, making it long standing and talk and letting it reach everybody. I
mm,
think that sometimes we focus too much on the now, like how can I impact these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people, which is great. Like and having an impact is really, really important. However, what can you do to make sure this still continues? Because once you're no longer there, it doesn't matter if it actually happened. And yes, like history matters and your impact matters, but if it's not long standing, it won't have a long lasting impact. And yes, impacting one person may start a long chain of impacting others. But it's really important to make sure that there's a system and institution in place. I think that it's like something I love about Fisk is that like it's an institution. Like most like HBCUs are all institutions, which means they have long standing and like long histories of educating people and making sure they get to where they get. There's going to be problems, but I think that as we move forward, we can establish institutions that are long standing and that cater to more than one audience.
So, if I want to make sure I'm hearing you right, I'm
Hmm.
hearing that, of course, what your predecessors have gotten right is identifying the problem. Here are
Right.
the issues. What you think they could do a better job at is sustainability. And that
Yes.
is the things that are working, that are impactful. How do we sustain these over time,
Yes.
whereby we're not having to start from scratch each and every time? Is that a little bit accurate?
Yes, that's exactly right. And I think like I guess like to make it more simple, to simplify it a little more, and to be more specific, I would say like not focusing more on tradition. I think that sometimes the Black community has a really hard time with like stepping out of traditional aspects to like open their minds and review ourselves. Like take a step back. Okay, like what are we doing wrong? Assess ourselves. You know, take a step back to just reflect. I think there needs to be a lot more reflection happening because while you're still fighting to have the problem, there could be other things impacting the result that you may not realize. So
Absolutely.
that analysis and taking a step back and really processing what you're experiencing is important, which is I think like our generation, like the people who my peers were really focusing on mental health and like how you can take care of yourself and like what can you do to like make those things long standing, because yes, going to doing a mindfulness exercise now may help you in the next hour or two, but you're living much longer than the next hour or two. So what can you do to sustain the rest of your life to keep these practices going?
I like that example actually.
Yeah.
I do. I really, really like that example. And not to be critical, I know a lot of universities adopted mindfulness days and
Mhm.
mindfulness exercises. And it's so hard to make some of the comments that you and I are making and people not say, oh my gosh, they're just being negative. And no, we're
Mhm.
not being negative. We're saying, great job, beautiful.
Right.
How do we make this more impactful and how do
Right.
we make sure it is long lasting? Because
Right.
I noticed with a lot of the universities, HBCUs included, post COVID especially, and even near the tail end of COVID, they embraced these mindfulness days and
Mhm.
mindfulness exercises beyond the mindfulness day
Mhm.
and the mindfulness exercise. I don't particularly know if there were any structures put in place to make sure that there's a consistent checkup on one's mental health. Just to
Right.
continue with your example, and continuity might be what you and I are talking about in addition to sustainability. So,
Mhm.
oh wow, you're deep.
Thank you.
You're deep. Every time I talk to students, I'm like, okay, this might be a light conversation. This might be a heavy, like yours is deep. And I do like it. I do appreciate it. I like all the conversations. Brayden, when I look at your building resume, it's hard. Let me back up. When I look at your building resume,
Mhm.
and I don't want to pigeonhole you, I do not want to put you in a box. A part of me says, Brayden is going to go straight into politics, straight into social justice. She
Mhm.
may go into law. It may be legal defense that Brayden goes into. So there's that. But then I also look at this person who, your artistry, like if one looks at your resume, your artistry, trained and skilled, is nothing to sneeze at. So
Right.
you could go either direction. So first question, which direction do you think is you're going to make your primary and which one is going to be your secondary? That's the first question, and then I have a follow-up for you.
Mhm. So this is actually something I've been struggling with
I can
because
only imagine. You're so talented.
thank you. But it's more so just because like I think that both avenues can have a strong impact on people. I just think that conventionally it happens through politics and it happens through policy
Mm.
reform. And I think that's still important. I want to have those skills. However, I strongly believe that like the arts and anything creative has a bigger impact than we can realize because it's literally changing the culture of our environment. Like and in front of our eyes. And that's becomes a new norm. So I think I'm not sure, but I would like to have the creative aspect and like the artistic side be my primary because I try to do everything through a creative lens just because I something I'm working on and priding myself on as I'm getting older is like being able to communicate to people through like a universal language. So like and make sure that everybody
Hmm.
understands what I'm saying. And music is the universal language. That's something I
I
learned through
love
like our
that.
classical training because what we're playing now, we can play this music and enjoy our time here, but when we're going somewhere else and people who don't speak that different language, we're already in the same piece of paper. So I think like that's really important. I want to be able to make sure that's being done through the arts, but also keeping in mind like policy reform and what's going on in this formal environment that we can bring it over here. So I'm not sure yet, but I do want as of right now, I want the arts to be my primary resource.
So, for the record, when I asked you that question, I realized how unfair it was as I was asking it. Because I'm asking you, it's almost like asking you to choose between two babies. Like,
Hmm.
if again, if anyone knows Brayden and you just read up on what her resume, again, her building resume is, she's got her hands quite deeply in both sides.
Mm.
So I knew it was unfair. Thanks for answering it regardless.
Cool.
Um I when you said you wanted the arts to be your primary and politics and all the things that come with that to be your secondary, I wrote down Condoleezza Rice's name. Do you know who Condoleezza Rice is?
Yes, I've heard a lot about her. Yeah.
Okay. So I do some research on her. If I want to make sure I'm getting this right, if I'm not mistaken, she was the first Black Secretary of State
Hmm.
under President Bush.
Hmm.
So just do a little bit of research on her. And if I'm also not mistaken, she's heavily associated with Stanford University and their music program. I may get the universities wrong. Please don't come after me, those who hear this, like, that's wrong. I may get it wrong. I accept that. But she is classically, if I'm not mistaken, a classically trained pianist.
Hmm.
And it was impossible for her, and I've listened to some of her interviews, it was impossible for her not to always bring that into her space of politics because she was also heavily politics. So she might be somebody to take a look at with regards to how have some done it where they did not necessarily always pick one hat over the other, but kind
Hmm.
of merged both hats along the way.
Hmm.
Now, speaking of your politics side, though, and this is again, Brayden, an unfair question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Oh, Brayden, And this is a commentary that ends with asking for your opinion, right? When I'm around a lot of my HBCU students, and let me actually go there and not just say HBCU students, a lot of my Black students, regardless of whether or not they're an HBCU, they are absolutely mixed with regards to party politics in the
Mm-hmm.
United States of America. And there's a Jaden Williams out of Georgia, for example. He's at Clark Atlanta University currently, and he is running for the mayor of Stockbridge.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm not wrong, he's not running under any political party. He's just going for the job.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you and I both know from knowing the way politics runs in the United States of America that there's still two big engines, the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. Speaking of the fact that your generation, it's always the next generation that could change things. It's always the next generation that could influence things to be a little bit more different than it is now. What do you think the Democratic Party gets right? And again, I understand this is an unfair question. What do you think the Republican Party gets right? She's
I
like,
would,
why did I say yes to this conversation?
I would say honestly, I think that the Democratic Party does a good job with wrangling in people with similar thoughts. Like I think like okay, for example, I think that like we think of Democrats, we think of like liberals, we think like people who are very liberal who want, a very equal or equitable society, depending on which
Mhm,
lens you're looking at it and which
mhm,
end of the spectrum of the Democratic Party you're looking at. Because I think a lot of people forget to think about that Democratic Party is it's just it's not one core belief. It's like a, a range of things. So I think the best thing that they do is like having like a solid option for the people who believe in sort of the same things.
okay.
Um, I think that opposed to the Republican Party, like I think it's sometimes it's so specific that people have a hard time identifying with it because they don't want to. When you hear Republican, it's like whoa, like you know what I'm saying. It's like in people's minds, it seems like a bad thing. But like I think that's the Democratic Party does a great job with giving people a strong identity to come with like very little to no expectations. Like I think when you hear somebody identifying the Republican Party, you're thinking like, oh, like do you agree with Trump? That's the first thing that comes to people's mind. Like,
Sure,
do you
sure.
agree with the ideas and values that Donald Trump has to offer? But I think Democratic Party is more so just like, okay, like what do you believe in? I think it gives you a little bit more range.
So so you gave us what in your viewpoint what the Democratic Party gets right.
Hmm.
What does the Republican Party get right in your opinion? And if you want to say they get nothing right, you can say that too. Although I would beg to differ.
Yeah, yeah. I think they get something right. I think the Republican Party does a really good job with I think they do a really good job with sticking to what works for them. Like I think that they're very specific. Like they don't stray away from what they believe in. They're really good at getting the money and distributing it how they see fit. I think that because they have such strict rules and they're seen as more conservative, they don't have a hard time with long-standing programs or long-standing initiatives. Like when they're after something, I think that as of right now, like you see, most of Congress is Republican, and our president currently is Republican. So they do a really good job of making sure those things are long-standing and they have a really really strong impact. So not in the most positive way, but I think they do a really good job.
So again, you're going to correct me if I'm wrong. So please correct me if I'm wrong. I hear you saying that what the Democrats get right is herding or
Hmm.
bringing together people who think similarly. Is that
Yes,
accurate?
yes,
And what I hear you saying that the Republicans get right is committing to whatever their agendas are. Is
yes,
that accurate?
yes.
Okay. Um, where do Black people fall?
Uh,
You
I
had
think
to know that was coming.
I knew it was coming. I knew it was coming.
Okay, where do Black people fall?
I think that most Black people fall in the Democratic space. And I think that sometimes they don't know why. They just know that this is They're just taught this is who is for them. And honestly, like, I want to be completely honest. Like my dad was really involved in politics, but like I didn't really. I mean, as I was younger, I didn't really pay attention to that kind of stuff. I was just like, whatever. But I never understood the complete difference between Democratic Party and Republican Party. And I was like, people always use the example of abortion. And I'm like, okay, well, that's a pretty strong example to explain the parties. I think a lot of Black people just identify with Democratic because they understand like, oh, this is liberal, so this may help me more. But oftentimes I think like if they do a little more research, they may find themselves as independent, not associated with either party. So yeah.
Interesting. And I think what you just said, I think more people would identify with if they were bold enough to say it. And
Yeah.
the only reason why I'm saying that is because I have a lot of conversations with students, And thankfully, most of the conversations I have with students are not fluff. We talk about all of these things all of the time. Some are staunchly Democratic. A few are staunchly Republican. A majority miss me with that. Like a majority are like, I actually don't staunchly believe one or the other. Give me some of that, give me some of that. And that's really where I fall.
Right.
And I'm hoping that your generation will be the generation that wakes us all up. And by us, I am talking about Black people. This is I Love My HBCU ? After all, I am hoping that it wakes us all up to think a little bit more for what benefits us and what are the advantages to us. Because I don't think we think that. We don't lead with that a lot. And we are extremely supportive. I don't always see exactly where the return on the investment is for us. And these are just my thoughts. I should not be sharing my thoughts, but these are just my thoughts. So anyway, I'm hoping that when Brayden Hamilton, I'm sorry, I don't know where I got Williams from. When Brayden Hamilton runs for office and she remembers these conversations, there is more hope for a good number of us who don't fall in one particular space or another, but really just want to see the betterment of humanity.
Yes.
I was in Tennessee not too long ago, about a couple of months or so ago, and realized how it's not the AUC. The AUC is in Atlanta, and literally Spelman, Morehouse, Clark Atlanta are neighbors, and it's knock on your door neighbors, not a neighbor a mile away. Knock on your door neighbors. So Tennessee, Fisk, Tennessee State University, and Meharry Medical College are not knock on your door neighbors per se, but they're in close proximity to each other. And I wasn't expecting that until I came to visit. What tell us, for those of us who are ignorant, tell us, what is the relationship between those three? What is the relationship between those three?
So, I would say the relationship it's completely different than the AUC as in comparison. Fisk and Meharry actually are like, they're next to each other. They're like right next to each other. And the TSU is maybe, I want to say like 5 minutes down the road. Like it's not even like a whole drive.
It's a mile. I walked it. It's a mile.
Yeah, you can literally walk it. So I would say it's pretty closely related. The universities aren't as closely related anymore. Meharry and Fisk are closer than TSU and Meharry, but that is strictly just because of the history of the institution. Something that I learned as an ambassador is that Fisk actually donated a little bit of their campus to Meharry so that they can have land for their university. So that was really cool. I learned that as an ambassador. Meharry and Fisk have a really strong relationship when it comes to pre-med like programs, pre-dental programs. Fisk does have a lot of STEM majors, and it's been increasing as time goes on. So they have a building relationship. TSU and Fisk, very different cultures. It's only just because Fisk is private and smaller and TSU is public and bigger. So like the climate of the university is just completely different. However, when it comes to that area versus the rest of Nashville, like the Jefferson Street is what they call it. Like Jefferson Street, like is very connected just because we're all in the same area. So
I love it. So Brayden, Do you think that there is a need, a desire, a necessity for some of our universities, our HBCUs that are in close proximity with each other to be so this is where this question is coming from. I thought I would see a lot more collaboration
Mhm,
between the different institutions, and I didn't.
mhm.
And I wonder if there is some opportunity there that we're not tapping into by
Yeah,
not having better collaboration. And I wanted to get from a student who's walking the campus and sees the close proximity, but most of the time you have to be in your own world, in your own institution. Do you see it that way as well?
I agree. I think that there's like a huge drift between universities. Let not more so Meharry and Fisk or
Of
Meharry
course.
anybody else because it's a medical school. But I think
Absolutely.
like Fisk and TSU, they definitely aren't as close as I think they should be. Just because like a lot of the organizations or student organizations that Fisk has, TSU also has.
Yeah.
So I think that if we kind of work together a little bit more, I think that we can have a stronger impact, especially because like Fisk, I would say I think that Fisk does have like a really, really strong alumni association. So does TSU. TSU has like people all over the country. So does Fisk. But I think like they could tap into their different kinds of networks to come together and really do something. When I was talking to a lot of alum about Fisk and like I decided to go there, I asked them about TSU. I was like, like
Mm.
TSU down the street, like what do you got? What's the they were like, no, there's no connection. Like we do our thing, and they do our thing. Like TSU's homecoming is a whole week before ours, so it's like I mean those kind of things. We're not really even in the same spaces unless it's like HBCU things specifically to
Mm. Mm.
Nashville. Then we're kind of in the same place. And I don't want to forget about American Baptist College. That's the
My
HBCU too in
apologies. Yes.
Nashville, but it's not close to us. So it's like even it's kind of far away. But a lot of people forget about them. Sometimes I do as well. But I do know that they're a really, really prominent HBCU in Nashville as well.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Brayden, I get the sense that you are someone that if I wanted, and by the way, and this is a shameless plug, for Generation Next Thought Leaders Summit, we have, I love my HBCU question mark has a biannual social impact summit,
Mm.
and the Brayden Hamiltons of the world belong there. That's the honest to God truth. Those who have something to say and something to share, where the mic is in your hand, and elected officials and the general populace are invited to listen to what you have to say. Because again, I say this ad nauseum,
Mhm.
whether we like it or not, you are our future. I like it that you are our future, by the way, but not everybody is on board or excited. Whether we like it or not, you are the future. It is important that we're listening to what you have to say and how you see what's going on around us,
Mhm.
because the elders do have to move on at some point in time. So I could have these conversations with you, and I love, love, love how much depth you bring to them. But is there something that you're like, wait, hold on, Dr. Tosin, why haven't you asked me about this, that you would like to share and bless the audience with?
Um, I wouldn't say so. I think we covered a lot, like and like really important things too that a lot of people don't want to hear students' opinion about because they feel like, oh, like we're
Mm,
still in school, we're still learning, but like we're here, like we have a lot of things that like we can contribute to as well. And college environment has changed a lot since I would say like the digital transformation, like us doing everything digitally, has definitely moved things in a different direction, which is why like I think we have a different perspective to add. So I would just say that like don't if anybody listening and you're a alum of HBCU, try to like encourage the current students a little bit more to interact with you guys because you do have something else to offer, and you do have a lot more knowledge about the university and what it's like to be an HBCU graduate, a product of HBCU.
I appreciate you. Now, Brayden, end this episode for us. One word or short phrase. Why do you, Brayden Hamilton of Fisk University, love HBCUs?
I love HBCUs because it gives me the opportunity to connect with people outside of like my own space. So, I think that I was just talking to one of my friends about this the other day. Coming to HBCU, I've met more Black people like myself than anywhere else. Like, like there's high chance you might find somebody who has the same interest as you at a PWI where there's less Black people. There's a chance. There's a greater chance at a HBCU because there are so many Black people, and somebody that you may identify with more, may be your roommate or your next door neighbor, and you're the same club as you. So, just take a chance, put yourself out there, and make a difference.
So, if you are somebody who cares about humanity, if you're somebody who is excited, maybe even a little bit nervous about what the future looks like with our politics, with social justice, it is impossible for you not to have seen this episode with Brayden Hamilton as my guest and not love it. So go ahead and like and subscribe to I Love My HBCU ? Not because of me, but because of Brayden Hamilton of Fisk University. Brayden Hamilton, it's been amazing having you on. And to everybody who can see me or can hear the sound of my voice, till next time, I love my HBCU ? Thank you for joining us. Thanks, Brayden.
Thank you so much for having me. Have a good rest of your guys' day.
Thank you.
You've been listening to I Love My HBCU ? Let's keep the conversation going as we share our stories and encourage more practical support of HBCUs, whilst of course holding each other accountable. Don't forget to follow and subscribe for the latest episodes. Until next time, love and lift your HBCU.